What's up guys, my name is Annie Cooper and welcome to today's YouTube video. Now before we get into this video, make sure you give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment below what topics you would like to see next because I'm all for learning about things that you want to hear about. So today's video is going to be all about inflammation, how we get rid of it, what it is, and how to eliminate it completely. So inflammation and bloating is kind of crazy because it can really affect how you look and feel. Sometimes when I'm bloated and inflamed, I look like I am 10 pounds heavier than I actually am, and I feel so much heavier, bloated, like I'm retaining a ton of water. I just feel disgusting. And it's just due to things in our environment, things that we're consuming that we might even think are normal, things that our bodies don't process and digest well that we are not used to. So eliminating these things and really getting to the bottom of it can really help you eliminate this completely and find your true body weight so you can actually make progress, see some definition, lose weight if you want to, because if you are inflamed, it will really affect your weight loss. So when we are really inflamed and bloated, this decreases our body's ability to produce leptin, which is a hormone that helps us regulate appetite. So if lower levels of leptin, you will find that you are hungrier, you are more inflamed, you will feel more fatigued, all of these things that we don't want, and you can retain water from this. So if you are inflamed, there is a hormone that is not able to be produced as well. So it kind of makes sense with that if you do, like after a night out of drinking or partying and you don't sleep, you're drinking alcohol, we find that we kind of crave like fatty foods, sugary foods. It's because of that. You're super inflamed, your body's trying to fight this off, and in return, you're getting these cravings, you're getting hungrier, and you just feel kind of like gross and blah. So this past weekend, I went out drinking, I had pizza, I had appetizers, and I had half of like one of those ginormous cookies. And I'm gonna put a clip right here. This was today, actually. It's currently the beginning of the week, it's Monday. This was last night, or 2 nights ago, my bad. And I feel chronically inflamed, super bloated from this. And I'm gonna put like a before and after. Guys, these are 2 days apart. 2 days apart between these videos. I know I'm not saying I'm fat or I gained a bunch of weight, but you can tell in these videos that I am extremely bloated. This is just relaxed. And it's just because my body did not sleep enough. I didn't recover. I had foods that were kind of something that I wasn't used to, like things very high in sodium, things very high in sugar. I had alcohol, all of these things that my body doesn't process well and do not digest well. My digestion was off. And in return, this is the outcome. So if we do these things every 5 days, if we do these on the weekends, all weekend, it's gonna take our body a couple of days to regulate. So you'll get to that regulated point, and then you'll find that you're starting back over again because you introduce these things on the weekends, which is what the majority of people that I work with have the issue with, is going out to eat, going out with friends on the weekend. You make all this progress for 4 days, Friday hits, you ruin it, and then it takes all the way back to Thursday to get it right again. So this is the problem. This is kind of like that yo-yo effect, and you are gonna have a really hard time making any weight loss progress if that is your goal, and even muscle gain progress if you continue to do these things. So I wanna first go over foods that can increase inflammation in your body and some foods to avoid. Now the number one thing that I think of when it comes to inflaming my body at least is artificial sweeteners. And this is a tricky thing that we don't realize is in a lot of things. My protein powder that I was consuming had artificial sweeteners, sucralose, red 40, yellow 10, I'm forgetting the dye actual name, but all those dyes are gonna really cause your body to be inflamed and you're not processing this well. So pay attention to your ingredient list. Protein powders are one thing that I find all the time, or pre-workouts, energy drinks and stuff like that have these ingredients in them that you will be bloated after. It does not matter if it's protein or 100 calories or 40 calories or 0 calories even. If these ingredients are in them, your body does not process these ingredients well. Even sometimes stevia and little sweeteners like that can make a huge difference. So when it comes to inflammation, the biggest thing that I changed was cutting out stevia, even though it is 0 calories, and just doing a little bit of honey or even brown sugar, I found responded better in my body. Even though we kind of think of that as like, oh, it's sugar, it has calories. Yes, that is true, but you could be eating something that's 0 calories and you're gonna look like you're 10 pounds heavier because you're eating something that's inflaming your body versus having something that's gonna add an additional 50 calories, but you're processing this well because it's a clean ingredient. So adding those things in really helps kind of making that switch. The other thing is vegetables that are very cruciferous. So vegetables are very healthy, yes, but things like cabbage, onions, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, some of these vegetables can cause gas, can cause bloating, can cause constipation even. Having too much fiber, this is something that can actually make you inflamed only because we cannot break down too much fiber at once. So having smaller portions of vegetables, having the right kinds of vegetables, so like leafy greens, spinach, celery, high water content vegetables really help. Cucumber, stuff like that is great if you are having trouble with bloating after consuming vegetables. Sorry, I'm like not talking well. So other foods that cause bloating: alcohol, fried foods, really any types of like white sugar, white carbs. That's why people try to avoid things like white bread, anything like that. Gluten in some people, dairy in some people. I find that certain dairies are okay for me. Other dairies are absolutely not. So in some people, avocado, whole eggs can cause bloating. There's a list, so if you guys go online and you look at low FODMAP foods, low FODMAP, I will put it right here in text. That is something that you can look at and follow that are typically the things that will not bloat you. So something that will not bloat you are things like fatty fish, salmon is great. Certain foods that will not cause bloating. So again, if you look at the low FODMAP foods, those are a list of foods that typically are better on your gut. If you have a leaky gut or something like that, that is another thing to pay attention to make sure you're kind of factoring that out. If that is an issue, you can kind of deal with that on its own first and then pay attention to everything else around it. But if you have a leaky gut, typically elimination diet or something like that will really help you, and adding in certain vitamins and nutrients, or some people do prescriptions or probiotics, things like that will really help. But a list of foods that will not bloat you are things like dark chocolate, different spices. I personally added in curry. Making a homemade curry with all healthy ingredients, I felt so good that night and the next day. That is one of my favorite dishes. You can add protein, you can add, your choice of rice or whatever the case may be, and you can kind of mix that in. That really helped me a ton. Green tea, different spices obviously are great for you. Certain fruits, pineapple is said to really help with digestion and bloating. Asparagus is a diuretic and it can help you retain less water, and it can help with bloating as well. So that's another good vegetable to add in. Things like fatty fish, so salmon is great. Anything with omega-3 fatty acids, taking that supplement really helps as well. That is great for helping reduce inflammation overall, with your whole body. So those are some foods that I'm thinking of to add in if you are having issues with this. So for example, if you are used to having fried fish at night or something out of a package, try adding in some healthy fats with some salmon, with some of these vegetables that I mentioned. Your body might respond well to certain carbs and not good with others. So trying different types of pasta, different rices, sweet potato typically does digest well in many people, things like that. So try to factor things out, add things in as needed, pay attention to how you feel that night, how you feel the next morning. This will really help you tell, am I getting bloated from these types of food? Am I not? You kind of have to think about that if you're trying to kind of assess your own body without getting the help of someone else at first, and just see how you're feeling, how you're looking. Taking photos is really helpful, and just kind of measure your progress that way. So another thing to do, like what I just mentioned, is adding in probiotics or adding in a digestive enzyme. So I know a lot of people, I personally don't need to do this anymore, but I used to, taking a digestive enzyme before each meal or before your heavier meal. So for example, if dinner, for most people, is your heavier meal of the day, chewing up some digestive enzymes, papaya enzymes are said to help with that as well. Typically you'll do it before your meal, and that really helps. Another thing is drinking too much water during your meal actually is not the best when it comes to bloating. I recommend drinking water, in between your meals before you eat, but not drinking a ton of water as you're eating and anything like that. The other thing is high salt food. So you might go to a sushi restaurant and you're like, this is super healthy, but you're adding in a ton of soy sauce and it's super salty. You wake up the next morning and you're 3 pounds heavier. It's not your true body weight. It's just because your body is retaining water, AKA you're bloated, AKA you're probably a little bit inflamed. So reducing your salt. We do need salt in our diet. If you are drinking enough water, this should kind of balance itself out, but kind of regulating that as well. You should be able to tell, again, because everyone is different. If you sweat more, you can probably have a little bit more salt, but you should be able to tell okay, this is my salt limit. This is what I need to have. And that goes with anything else and everything else. This is the limit of food. If you're overeating, of course you're gonna be bloated. You're eating more than your body needs. You're gonna kind of retain water and you're gonna feel like you are just puffy and full all the time. So that's another thing. Having too many carbs in one sitting, for a lot of people, some men can handle this, but I find with most people having too many carbs in one sitting, yes, you will feel bloated and retain water and everything like that. So again, it's very dependent on the person, but I would say make sure you are getting a ton of sleep. If you are not sleeping enough, your body will be a little bit more inflamed. You're gonna raise your cortisol levels, which will increase your stress levels, which will increase inflammation. So getting enough sleep, drinking a ton of water, exercising and sweating regularly. That's why people go in saunas and you're doing cardio and you're sweating, is because yes, you are getting rid of all those toxins, you're sweating out the salt and sweating out the water weight, we'll say. So increasing your sweat and your cardio, your training, all of that stuff really helps. And just limiting your sugary and fatty and fried foods. If you can limit that and the alcohol, that will really help you. And just sticking to a regular diet of very clean foods. Pay attention to your ingredients and make sure that you are not eating things that you don't know what they are. Dairy and gluten might affect you. Certain dairy items and certain gluten items might not affect you as heavily as others. So pay attention to that. But at the end of the day, it's kind of figuring out what's working for you, sticking to a regular routine and making sure you have that set. You can do things like the cold plunge, you can do things like an Epsom salt bath to help a little bit with inflammation, but everything else is kind of up to your diet. What goes in your body is really what you see on the outside. Always remember that, that's what I always say. So once you get that in check, you will have no issues. So I hope this helps you guys, and I will see you guys next time.